Your husband is incredibly handsome. He's too good for you. I match him better. I should steal him away. My best friend Patricia suddenly blurted out these words. Even though she's my best friend, I never imagined she would say such a thing. My name is Mary, and I'm about to turn 30 this year. I've been married to my husband Robert for 3 years. We live together with our 1-year-old daughter Elizabeth and my mother-in-law Linda. Robert and I are still as close as we were when we first got married. He's extremely handsome, with an impeccable and kind personality. He's a husband I'm truly proud of. However, with a handsome face and a kind personality, it's natural to worry about other women not leaving him alone. But I have a strong support in my life. That's Linda, my mother-in-law. Good morning, Mary. The weather is lovely today, isn't it? Good morning, Linda. Yes, it's really pleasant weather. Linda is elegant and calm. Initially, I thought she was a stern person, but she turned out to be very kind and always listens to what I have to say. We started living together just before my father-in-law passed away. Many people struggle with mother-in-law and daughter-in-law conflicts, but Linda is so dependable that it's not a concern for me. Actually, I lost my parents in an accident when I was just a few months old. With no relatives to take me in, I was raised in an orphanage. Having no real concept of what a mother is, Linda's presence has been significant in my life. As a wife, she must be what a warm mother feels like. Mary, it's a nice day. Why don't we go out somewhere? Let's take Elizabeth for a walk. There's a festival at the nearby park today. You know about it, right? Yes, I do. I wanted to go too. If Linda wants to go, I'm more than happy to join. So, we decided to go to the festival happening nearby. The park had food stalls with hot dogs, popcorn, shooting galleries, and ring toss games for children. Elizabeth will be able to play these games in a few years. That'll come sooner than you think. Kids grow up fast, and that means we're getting older too. Linda gently held Elizabeth's hand, probably looking forward to our granddaughter's growth. That day we enjoyed eating popcorn from the stalls and had leisurely conversations with Linda on the park benches. The next day, something happened. The doorbell rang in the afternoon. Who could that be? I opened the door to find Patricia, my best friend, standing there. Patricia, what brings you here so suddenly? I came from far away. I'll just come in. This is Patricia. She transferred to my elementary school midterm. We went to the same middle school, and we're especially close friends. We went to different high schools, but kept in touch regularly. As adults, we went out for meals a few times a year. She's an irreplaceable best friend to me, though she's always been a bit presumptuous, entering others' homes casually or using their things, because we're close. Now we're both respectable adults. Such things don't bother us anymore, and we can talk freely. That day, Linda was at the community center, so I could easily invite Patricia into the house. So, it's rare for you to come over so suddenly. Is something up? My husband is on a business trip right now. I don't have kids yet, and had nothing to do today, so I came to visit you, Mary. Saying that, Patricia stood up, looked at a photo of me and my husband on the living room table, and said, Mary, is this your husband? I answered, yes, and Patricia's eyes sparkled. He's handsome, looks like a model. My husband is indeed handsome, but to say he looks like a model might be a stretch. I didn't say anything as people had different tastes, but Patricia seemed overly enthusiastic. Weren't you at my wedding? Did you forget? I had a relative's funeral and couldn't attend your wedding, but I had no idea your husband was this handsome. I should have skipped the funeral and gone to your wedding. Patricia has always had a habit of saying extreme things, but this time her comment felt particularly inappropriate, and I felt I needed to caution her. Patricia, you shouldn't even joke about that. Laughing about a relative's misfortune is unacceptable. Then Patricia retorted, What's the matter, Mary? You're a bit stiff because you don't have parents, right? I wasn't serious, but maybe I was in a way. What do you mean? I couldn't understand what Patricia was serious about for a moment, but seeing her smiling at the photo of me and my husband, I felt a chill down my spine. Then Patricia utters something unbelievable. I wish I had married someone as handsome as him. What's his name? His name is Robert, I told her. Your husband is incredibly handsome. He's too good for you. I match him better. I should steal him away. My best friend Patricia suddenly blurted out these words. Even though she's my best friend, I never imagined she would say such a thing. My name is Mary, and I'm about to turn 30 this year. I've been married to my husband Robert for 3 years. We live together with our 1-year-old daughter Elizabeth and my mother-in-law Linda. Robert and I are still as close as we were when we first got married. He's extremely handsome with an impeccable and kind personality. He's a husband I'm truly proud of. However, with a handsome face and a kind personality, it's natural to worry about other women not leaving him alone. But I have a strong support in my life. That's Linda, my mother-in-law. Good morning, Mary. The weather is lovely today, isn't it? Good morning, Linda. Yes, it's really pleasant weather. Linda is elegant and calm. Initially, I thought she was a stern person, but she turned out to be very kind and always listens to what I have to say. We started living together just before my father-in-law passed away. Many people struggle with mother-in-law and daughter-in-law conflicts, but Linda is so dependable that it's not a concern for me. Actually, I lost my parents in an accident when I was just a few months old. With no relatives to take me in, I was raised in an orphanage. Having no real concept of what a mother is, Linda's presence has been significant in my life. As a wife, she must be what a warm mother feels like. Mary, it's a nice day. Why don't we go out somewhere? Let's take Elizabeth for a walk. There's a festival at the nearby park today. You know about it, right? Yes, I do. I wanted to go too. If Linda wants to go, I'm more than happy to join. So, we decided to go to the festival happening nearby. The park had food stalls with hot dogs, popcorn, shooting galleries, and ring toss games for children. Elizabeth will be able to play these games in a few years. That'll come sooner than you think. Kids grow up fast, and that means we're getting older too. Linda gently held Elizabeth's hand, probably looking forward to our granddaughter's growth. That day, we enjoyed eating popcorn from the stalls and had leisurely conversations with Linda on the park benches. The next day, something happened. The doorbell rang in the afternoon. Who could that be? I opened the door to find Patricia, my best friend, standing there. Patricia, what brings you here so suddenly? I came from far away. I'll just come in. This is Patricia. She transferred to my elementary school midterm. We went to the same middle school and were especially close friends. We went to different high schools but kept in touch regularly. As adults, we went out for meals a few times a year. She's an irreplaceable best friend to me, though she's always been a bit presumptuous, entering others' homes casually or using their things, because we're close. Now we're both respectable adults. Such things don't bother us anymore, and we can talk freely. That day, Linda was at the community center, so I could easily invite Patricia into the house. So, it's rare for you to come over so suddenly. Is something up? My husband is on a business trip right now. I don't have kids yet and had nothing to do today, so I came to visit you, Mary. Saying that, Patricia stood up, looked at a photo of me and my husband on the living room table, and said, Mary, is this your husband? I answered, yes, and Patricia's eyes sparkled. He's handsome. Looks like a model. My husband is indeed handsome, but to say he looks like a model might be a stretch. I didn't say anything as people had different tastes, but Patricia seemed overly enthusiastic. Weren't you at my wedding? Did you forget? I had a relative's funeral and couldn't attend your wedding, but I had no idea your husband was this handsome. I should have skipped the funeral and gone to your wedding. Patricia has always had a habit of saying extreme things, but this time her comment felt particularly inappropriate, and I felt I needed to caution her. Patricia, you shouldn't even joke about that. Laughing about a relative's misfortune is unacceptable. Then Patricia retorted, What's the matter, Mary? You're a bit stiff because you don't have parents, right? I wasn't serious, but maybe I was in a way. What do you mean? I couldn't understand what Patricia was serious about for a moment, but seeing her smiling at the photo of me and my husband, I felt a chill down my spine. Then Patricia utters something unbelievable. I wish I had married someone as handsome as him. What's his name? His name is Robert, I told her. When I told her my husband's name, Patricia seemed even more pleased. I want to marry a Robert too. She started saying things that made no sense. So I tried to stay calm and respond. Even if you say that Robert is my husband, I'm just saying I should have married a handsome man. My husband looks like a raccoon in comparison. Robert is handsome. He doesn't suit you. He suits me better. Maybe I'll steal him from you. I started to get angry at her remarks. What are you saying, Patricia? Were you always like this? Is there something wrong in your marriage? Are you not getting along with your husband? It's nothing special. Just a normal husband with an income appropriate for his age and a face like a raccoon. But it's not so bad that I can't stand him. But the more I look at Robert, the more handsome he seems. I like this kind of face. After a long absence, I had a talk with Patricia, but she made so many rude comments that I stopped the conversation and asked her to leave. What's wrong with you, Mary? You're so mean. I'll come again. Say hello to Robert for me. Patricia said that and laughed. I couldn't understand what she meant by saying hello to Robert, but since she had always been clingy, I decided to warn Robert about her when he got home. However, the situation turned out to be more serious than I expected. In the evening, my husband came home. I'm home. I'm starving, Mary. I need to talk to you. Robert sat down in the living room chair and continued. Just before I got home, a woman asked me for my contact information, saying it's okay because I'm Mary's friend. And if you ask Mary later, she'll know immediately. Is that true? I was so surprised by my husband's story that my voice cracked. Yeah, it's true. She even asked me out for a meal. Did you exchange contact information? I casually asked, thinking my husband and Patricia had exchanged numbers. Of course not. I can't be sure she's really Mary's friend. I remember Patricia from your previous story, so I thought it might be her. But I made an excuse and declined. She was strangely insistent. I see. That's good. But she seems to really like you. Patricia came to the house at noon today, and I let her in because it had been a while. She saw the photo in the living room and seemed to like it. Patricia has always liked handsome men, so it's not surprising. My husband started talking with a happy expression after hearing my story. I'm flattered that she thinks I'm so handsome. Are you worried about me, Mary? Of course I'm worried. You're handsome, tall, and have a great personality. It's only natural to be concerned if such a wonderful husband is targeted by another woman. I blurted out my true feelings. I'm flattered by your compliments, but don't worry, I love my family the most. I would never betray Mary or Elizabeth. Thank you. That's just like my husband. I was so touched by his words that I almost cried. However, I still felt anxious. It was too fast for Patricia to visit her best friend after a long time, fall in love at first sight with her husband's photo, and then wait near the house to exchange contact information on the same day. I decided to be cautious about Patricia, thinking she might do something else in the future. My bad feeling was right. Patricia continued to wait for Robert to return home, trying to talk to him or get his contact information by saying she needed advice. One day, as winter was approaching, Robert came home and said, Mary, look at this. He handed me a scarf. It seems Patricia made it for me. Is this from Patricia to you? Yeah. I hesitated to accept it, but it felt wrong to refuse it. Robert, bless him, can't say no to anyone, so he ends up accepting things like this. Got it. I'll keep it for now. We'll talk about it properly later. Robert seemed convinced, but his expression was stiff. A few days later, after shopping with Robert, we ran into Patricia. It was probably not a coincidence. Mary, Robert's not just handsome, but also kind-hearted. I'm really taken with him. I'm serious about Robert. Can you leave us alone for a while? I couldn't understand what she was saying. What are you thinking, Robert? Is my husband. So what if Robert prefers me? It's fine, right? Maybe in a few days, I'll be the girlfriend of Mary's husband. Exciting, isn't it? Lately, every time I meet Patricia, it's this kind of talk. I'm fed up. She may have fallen for Robert at first sight, but she doesn't realize he's not interested. It's really troubling for my husband. I wonder why I've been friends with someone like her for so long. I didn't discuss this with Linda, who lives with us, to avoid worrying her unnecessarily. Belinda was shopping with us that day and seemed to overhear our conversation. She was hiding behind us. Mary, who is that woman talking about liking Robert and wanting to be alone with him? I couldn't ignore what I heard. I hesitated, but since she overheard, there was no point in hiding it anymore. Actually, she's an old friend from my student days. The other day when you were at the community center, she came over. She fell for Robert after seeing a photo, exchanged contact info, invited him to dinner, gave him a handmade scarf, and even told me to break up with Robert. It's been a daily thing, really tough. I had no idea it had gotten to this point. Linda was quite shocked, but it's okay. Robert won't be fooled. He promised me that family comes first. I hope nothing happens. I can't just ignore that woman. Linda seemed different than usual. Then she said to me, "If that woman says something weird to Robert again, will you tell me?" "Of course, I'll let you know." Linda is usually calm and kind, but she can't stand troublesome people like Patricia. For a few weeks, Patricia did nothing. I thought she had given up on Robert, but then, when I was out with Linda and my daughter, we ran into Patricia at a restaurant entrance. "Mary, long time no see. I miss seeing you. So, have you given up on Robert? I'm working hard to become your husband's new wife." She hadn't given up on my husband. It's heavily Patricia. Fantasize all you want, but my husband and I are still close. It's not a fantasy. I won't give up. Every time I meet Patricia, I feel more exhausted. But Linda overheard during our conversation, confronted Patricia with a changed expression. "So, you're the deluded woman trying to become Robert's wife. Let me tell you, it's not easy to be his wife. The daily work is tough, and there's a lot of physical labor. With those thin arms, can you handle it? Once you marry Robert, there's no escaping. We'll make sure to have a written contract. If you're prepared for that, go ahead and try to be his wife." Wait, who is this woman coming at me like this? Could she be Robert's mom? Patricia was overwhelmed by Linda's assertiveness. "Mary, is it really that tough?" "It's more than tough. I wake up at 4 a.m., clean the floors, make breakfast, and then weed the garden. We have a home garden, so we spread kitchen waste in the soil as fertilizer." As I continued, Patricia's face grew pale. "Mary, isn't it hard living like this every day?" What I just said is just a fraction of it. I carefully prepare meals, making sure to include over 10 types of food for proper nutrition, counting calories too. Then I wake up Elizabeth, send Robert to work, drop Elizabeth at daycare, and do yoga with Linda. As Linda nodded in agreement, Patricia turned pale and said, "Unbelievable. Such a life in this era." She was in a panic. I also cleaned the house thoroughly after preparing lunch, tend the home garden, and prepare dinner. If anything's missing, I go shopping, walking or cycling for health, of course. Think you can handle it? Patricia looked down, defeated. Then my husband arrived at the store. "Sorry for the wait. I managed to get off early today. Haven't you ordered yet, Patricia?" Meeting her scheduled husband, she exclaimed loudly, "Robert, it's terrible. Your mother is bullying me." "I was just telling Patricia about my daily routine," my husband said seriously. "Speaking of which, yesterday's meal had only 9 ingredients, 1 short." "Robert, you're counting too?" Patricia was shocked at his response. "I put finely chopped carrots in the hamburgers. Didn't you notice? That makes 10. You're amazing, my wife." Patricia watched our conversation in astonishment. "What's with this couple?" "So, what did you want, Patricia?" When I asked if it was the same as before, Patricia reacted differently. "I can't bear such a life. I give up on Robert." "Don't say that. I find this life tough too sometimes, wishing someone would take over." "Why not try swapping with you?" Patricia shivered. "No way. I can't live like that," she whispered. "I can't believe you gave up so easily after chasing Robert every day," I said teasingly. Patricia ran away hurriedly, running away without hearing everything. She's impatient. I'm grateful to Mary. Every day she grows a splendid home garden, providing us fresh produce. It's my pleasure. There was more to the story. I've always dreamed of having a home garden since my student days. But it wasn't just that. My husband and Linda appreciated the vegetables from the garden. Ever since marrying Mary, I felt great. My health checkup results improved, and my skin's better. Friends say I look younger. Mary's not just good at cooking, but also laundry and cleaning. It's rare to find someone who enjoys house chores so much. I blushed at Linda's praise. When I got married, I declared the health of those I live with is paramount and asked Linda and my husband to avoid unhealthy habits. That's why I enjoy my current life. Patricia left without hearing the whole story, already confused. Unlikely she'll approach my husband again. I've seen her in town since, but she never speaks to us. We're no longer close friends. I didn't want to be friends with someone so out of touch. Months passed, and Linda's 70th birthday approached. Robert, Linda, and I were discussing the party. I had a surprise announcement. I have something to say. What is it? Go ahead, Linda urged. I hesitated deliberately. Mary, go on, Robert encouraged. What happened? Linda seems worried. Actually, I want to abstain from alcohol at the party. I touched my belly with my right hand. Mary, are you... really? Mary nodded slightly. Robert and Linda cried with joy. I was pregnant with our second child. I need to step up more. I'll help with the garden from now on. I can't afford to get bedridden at my age. Mary, don't overdo it. Let me know if I can help, Linda said. I teared up at their words. It was a wonderful day, making me grateful again for marrying Robert.
All right, everyone's presentations are done, Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively. though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick! What's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike, what have you done?" Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.